Good morning to all. Today we will continue with the eukaryotic translation. So that is the third part of the protein translation topic. As we discussed in one of the previous sessions, the structure of the eukaryotic ribosome, that is the translation machinery in eukaryotes, is having two units, that is a smaller 40S subunit and a 60S subunit, and the total number of rRNAs and the number of nucleotides were represented there. Again, for the 28S, it's about 4,718 nucleotides specifically. And for the rRNA, that is 5.8S rRNA, it is 160 nucleotides. Then 5S rRNA is composed of 120 nucleotides, and about 49 proteins were included in the 60S subunit. Whereas in the case of our small subunit, that is 40S subunit, we have 18S rRNA, which is having about 1,874 nucleotides specifically, and about 33 proteins, different proteins, ribosomal proteins were used for the manufacture of these 40S smaller subunit of the eukaryotic ribosome. Now, this is also discussed previously. Such ribosomes, eukaryotic and prokaryotic, both ribosomes is having three sites. The first one is an A site, which is an amino acyl tRNA binding site, which is used for, during the elongation, and the incoming amino acyl tRNA binds to these A site. Then there is a peptidyl tRNA binding site or P site, and this is where the tRNA linked to the growing polypeptide chain is bound. And the third site is the exit site, which is known as E site, is a binding site for the tRNA following its translation and prior to its release from the ribosome. So that is the exit point for the already utilized tRNA. So these are the three sites which is present in the ribosome. Okay. So this is the overall process of eukaryotic translation, in which we can divide it into three stages. The first one is the initiation stage, in which the mRNA and the charged tRNA will come and occupy the ribosome, and this entire assembly of the initiation complex, which includes a smaller subunit, larger subunit, and the correctly positioned mRNA and the charged tRNA, which is occupying the P site. This is the initiation complex, and that formation of the initiation complex is the process of initiation in eukaryotes. Then when we come to the next step, that is the elongation stage. In the elongation stage, we have a cyclic process in which these three stages, that is incoming amino acid will be occupying the A site initially. Then that peptidyl transfer reaction will occur, which will transfer the amino acid or the peptide bond which is present in the P site to the A site. Then the translocation, that is similar to that of the prokaryotic system. The next stage is the translocation stage, and this cycle continues until the end, until it reaches the end of the translation process, or wherever it encounters the termination codon. And finally, it leads to the termination. That is the third stage of eukaryotic translation. And after the termination, the components like the tRNAs and the ribosomal subunits will be recycled for starting another translation process by again reusing it in the initiation step. So this is the overall picture of the translation in eukaryotes, which we will discuss elaborately. So in eukaryotes, there are some differences, basic differences in its translation. First of all, methionine is used rather than the formyl methionine, which is the first amino acid that is incorporated in the initiation AUG codon. So in eukaryotes, instead of formyl methionine, normal methionine is used. Then there are different initiation factors. Another set of eukaryotic initiation factors and elongation factors were used in eukaryotes. It is slightly different from that of the prokaryotic initiation factors and their role. Then no ribosome binding specific ribosome binding site is present in the mRNA. In the mRNA of prokaryotes, we have a Shine-Dalgarno sequence, and that specific sequence is helping in binding or positioning this mRNA correctly in the ribosome assembly, and therefore positioning that correct AUG codon or initiation codon in the P site. Whereas in case of eukaryotes, such specific ribosome binding sequences, which will be complementary to the ribosomal rRNAs, is not there. So Shine-Dalgarno sequences is not present in eukaryotic system. Then how it binds specifically and reaches the start codon. And it uses a process known as a forward search method to find the start codon, for which it will bind at one end. And you know that at the 5' or 5' end of the eukaryotic mRNA, we have a 5' cap. So there is a complex of eukaryotic initiation factor 2 bound with GTP and the tRNA, which is charged tRNA, that's methionine tRNA, and that complex binds to the 5' cap initially, and the smaller subunit of the ribosome, protease subunit, also binds. So after this binding, the smaller subunit will, along with these complex of elongation factor 2, GTP and tRNA, that will move along the mRNA downstream to find the first AUG codon. So until it reaches, so the starting from one end, starting from the 5' cap, the mRNA, so through the mRNA, the complex of these elongation factor 2 GTP and these tRNA and the ribosome, small subunit, that assembly will move through the mRNA to find or locate the initial AUG codon. And once it is located and correctly positioned at the P site, then the larger subunit of the eukaryotic ribosome binds to the translation complex. So this is a schematic representation in which we have a 7-methyl guanosine cap at the 5' end of the eukaryotic RNA. And we also note that there may be some structural peculiarities in eukaryotic mRNA. Nearby these 7-methyl guanosine cap or 5' cap, maybe there are some looped and special structures which is formed in the eukaryotic mRNA, and such structures will normally prevent the translation process. But when the protease subunit or the smaller subunit, along with the other these factors like different initiation factors, methionine charged or the charged tRNA, methionine tRNA, and the GTP. So if this complex binds here, these structural or special structures, loop-like structures which is formed within the RNA will be unlocked, and that region of the RNA will be made available for further scanning of this complex and scanning of this complex downstream the mRNA to find the AUG codon, which is the initiator point or the initiation site. And once it reaches that, this complex reaches that site, then the P site will be correctly positioned at the AUG codon and with the charged methionine tRNA. And so that is the process of initiation in eukaryotic mRNAs. And we will see it using another picture or another diagram. So the process of in protein synthesis in eukaryotes, it proceeds in 3 steps. First one is the activation of the mRNA. So the activation of the mRNA means activation, not the charging of the tRNA, the activation of the mRNA. As I mentioned, the mRNA may be in an inactive form because of the structures, like some special structures or loops, which is present near the 5' cap. So that needs to be unwound and made available for translation. That is done by activation process, and the formation of the ternary complex consisting of ternary complex, a complex of 3 components, and the 3 components is a tRNA or methionine tRNA and elongation factor 2 and GTP. So these ternary complex will bind to the mRNA, and the formation of these ternary complex at the start point or at the 5' cap site, that activates the mRNA, and subsequently other factors will also bind, helping or aiding that structural change, in the required structural change in the mRNA, and initiation complex will be formed by binding. In previous, as we discussed previously, the smaller subunit will bind, and it will scan through the mRNA downstream, and then it will bind to the AUG, initial AUG codon, or position at the AUG codon. Then the larger subunit binds, and finally the formation of the ATS complex is ATS initiation complex, or the complete translation assembly is formed in the next stage. So here you can see that this is this is the methionine tRNA. So the charged tRNA is there. So elongation factor 2C, that is methionine is bound with that one, and here we have the 40S subunit, which is bound with some of the initiation factors, and methionine tRNA will also bind, and this is the pre-initiation complex, 40S pre-initiation complex, and it is not actually 40S. We will see it in some of the other slides. Some of the sedimentation, coefficient will increase by binding of the additional factors and tRNAs. So usually it reaches 43S. So this was 40S, and after binding of these initiation factors and tRNA, it becomes 43S pre-initiation complex. And then there is the mRNA with the 5' cap, and the additional factors will bind at the 5' cap, and 4F and 4A, 4B, all these things will bind at the 5' cap, and then it will bind to the 40S or 43S pre-initiation complex. So 43 pre-initiation complex is 40S ribosomal, 40S small subunit of the ribosome, and the methionine tRNA and some of the initiation factors. So this is the 43 pre-initiation complex. Then when mRNA and the required factors will again bind to this smaller subunit pre-initiation complex, then that becomes about a 48S initiation complex. So this 48 initiation complex is now bound with the larger subunit of the ribosome to form the 80S initiation complex, which will be incorporated with all initiation factors, mRNA, and the charged tRNA, which is correctly positioned at the P site of the ribosome. So this is the ATS initiation complex, and now this cycle will continue after once elongation is done. This will proceed to the elongation stage, but the factors that is used will be recycled for another initiation process. So this part shows the recycling of the factors for starting the initiation again. So the initiation factors which is used in the initiation process will be recycled. So you can see that the 4F is a complex consisting of 4E, 4A and 4G. So 3 different subunits will combine to form the 4F, which is marked here. So this 5' cap of the mRNA is bound with the 4F, which is a assembly of 4E, 4A and 4G. Now it is known as 4F. So that is required for the correct positioning and for initiation of the or that is required for the activation of the mRNA. Now, the constellation of these protein factors, or a lot of protein factors, and the 40S ribosomal subunit comprised of the 43 pre-initiation complex. So, these factors and the mRNA and the 40S ribosomal subunit, this constitutes a 43S pre-initiation complex. Then, when it is bound with mRNA, it constitutes the 48S pre-initiation complex. When it is again bound with the larger subunit, that is 80S pre-initiation complex. And now the initiation process is complete. It is ready for elongation. And the factors that is used in this process, or initiation factors, will be recycled at subsequent initiation processes of the mRNAs. So this is another representation, a simplified version. This is a 40S ribosomal smaller subunit. It is bound with elongation factor, eukaryotic initiation factor 3, and now again it is 43. Then methionine tRNA, charged methionine tRNA, and eukaryotic initiation factor 2 will bind, and after binding, this becomes a 43S. Then the mRNA, or the pre-activated mRNA, that mRNA is having some structural differences. Once it is bound with the elongation, eukaryotic initiation factor 4, this loop or this structure at the 5' end will be relieved, or it will be made available for translation. So that is the activation process of the mRNA. So the factor or initiation factor which is having some significant role in activation of the mRNA or straightening of this structure is eukaryotic initiation factor 4. As we mentioned, that is a cluster of 3 different factors. Now, eukaryotic initiation factor 4 along with the mRNA will bind to this complex of 43S to form the 48S complex. And once this complex is formed, now this ribosomal small subunit and this additional protein complex can move along the mRNA to find the correct first initiation codon and position it at the correct position in the P site. So that will be supported by the eukaryotic initiation factor 1 and 1A, etc. So now we have the 48S pre-initiation complex that is positioned correctly on the AUG codon. Then the 60S subunit will bind, and that will be facilitated by eukaryotic initiation factor 5. And finally, we have the complete initiation process is done by attaching all the required components, and the methionine tRNA is now correctly positioned at the P site. Now the overall complex is a 80S. So this is a eukaryotic initiation process. And this is another illustration. This is described in detail in 8 steps. So the cycle starts with the mRNA, sorry, the ribosomal subunit, the dissociation of the ribosomal subunits. Usually, after every cycle of translation, there will be a post-termination complex where the ribosome and other required RNA and the assembly components will be there, which will be dismantled, and the smaller and larger subunits will separate, and the release factors or other factors will be released, and which will be available in the cytoplasm. So when there is a smaller subunit is of the ribosome is available for binding of eukaryotic elongation factor 3, eukaryotic initiation factor 3, this starts the initiation process. So this is the smaller subunit with the EP and A sites, and which is bound with the eukaryotic initiation factor 3. Here we have the second stage in which eukaryotic initiation factor 2 forms a ternary complex. As we mentioned, the ternary complex includes eukaryotic initiation factor 2, GTP, and methionine tRNA, charged methionine tRNA. So that ternary complex is formed in this stage. So the second stage is the formation of a ternary complex including eukaryotic initiation factor 2, GTP, and methionine tRNA, initiator tRNA. Now the formation of a 43S pre-initiation complex comprising of a 40S subunit, eukaryotic initiation factor 1, eukaryotic initiation factor then 1A, eukaryotic initiation factor 3, etc. Then eukaryotic initiation factor 2 GTP complex with this is a ternary complex. So and probably eukaryotic initiation factor 5. So all these required additional factors will bind and form the complex. This is the next stage. That is the 43S pre-initiation complex. So then here comes the mRNA. Here and in the fourth stage we have the mRNA, that is mRNA activation is done, and as I mentioned, the mRNA activation is done at the 5' end of the mRNA where such structural loops were there, and that loops will be released by the eukaryotic initiation factor 4, which is an assembly of 3 different factors, and that will bind at the 5' end or near the gap, and then that activated. So this is it. We can see that 4A, 4G, and 4E. These 3 factors jointly that forms the eukaryotic initiation factor 4. So the eukaryotic initiation factor 4 along with the 4B binds to the mRNA, and it straightens such loops or the some disordered structures in the mRNA, and thus activating the mRNA. This mRNA will bind to the 43S pre-initiation complex. Then it starts the scanning through the mRNA to find the correct AUG codon. So starting from this end, it moves downstream, and it correctly positions at the first AUG codon, and that forms this entire assembly forms the 48S initiation complex. Then the next stage is the initiation initiation codon recognition, hydrolysis of elongation factor 2 bound GTP and PI or pyrophosphate release. So GTP and eukaryotic elongation factor 2 and pyrophosphate, all these things were released after the initiation complex formation, and once it is released, the 60S subunit will bind, and the 80S complex is now formed. And other factors like eukaryotic elongation factor 2 GDP and eukaryotic elongation factor 5, elongation factor 3 and eukaryotic initiation factor 3, eukaryotic initiation factor 1, all these required proteins which is required for initiation will be released at this point, and the GTP bound initiation factor 5B and the 60S subunit will bind to form the complete initiation complex, which is about 48S, or that is having a sedimentation coefficient of 80S. So that is the complete initiation complex, including mRNA, smaller subunit of the ribosome, larger subunit of the ribosome, and the tRNA positioned at the initiation point. So this is the complete formation of the initiation complex or 80S initiation complex in a eukaryotic system. So now after this stage, it is available for elongation process, and subsequently the third stage, that is termination process of the eukaryotic translation. So the first stage of eukaryotic translation is the initiation, which can be described in this manner. So this is the description. You can see that one. So initially, after binding at the 5' cap, the assembly will be scanning through the 5', starting from the 5' cap. It will be scanning through the 5' untranslated regions or UTRs in the 5', 3' direction, and that is the 43S complex that is scanning through this region. So that is starting from this point, it will scan through this mRNA to find the initiation codon. And one more point that needs to be addressed is that the initiation codon is usually recognized because it is often, but not always, contained in a short sequence called the Kozak consensus. So the initiation codon which is present here, that is the AUG codon. Here we have the AUG codon. So that AUG codon is present within a consensus sequences, which is commonly present in all the mRNAs, and that sequence is known as Kozak consensus. So it will be easy for this complex to find this specific AUG initiation codon since it is present within such a consensus sequence. Now, the recognition of the initiation codon and the 40S initiation complex formation, which switches these scanning complex to a closed conformation and leads to displacement of eukaryotic initiation factor 1, permitting these initiation factor 5 mediated hydrolysis of eukaryotic initiation factor 2. So, once this is done, the initiation factor 2 will be hydrolyzed and GDP and PPI will be released. The joining of the 60S subunits to 48S complex. So this is the 60S subunit which will be joined here. And joining of 60S subunit to the 80S complex and concomitant displacement of initiation factor 2, GDP and other factors. These are the different factors which is released. And that is mediated by eukaryotic initiation factor 5B GTP complex. So the binding of this complex releases the other factors. Then GTP hydrolysis by eukaryotic initiation factor 5B releases the initiation factor 1A and 5B GDP. So GTP after the hydrolysis of the GTP, the 1A and these factors will be released. So at the 9th step, we can see that hydrolysis of these complex, that is a initiation factor 5B GTP complex will be hydrolyzed and initiation factor 5B GDP and eukaryotic initiation factor 1A etc. will be released from that complex. And finally, it forms the ATS initiation complex. So the next stage or the second stage is the elongation. The elongation depends on eukaryotic elongation factors. There are 3 elongation factors specifically. It's not 3. The second one is a complex of 3. 3 elongation factors were actually eukaryotic elongation factor 1A, 1B and 2, eukaryotic elongation factor 2. The 1B is not 1B, 1G and 1D. These 3 components jointly forms a complex. Now, eukaryotic initiation factor 1A, which is represented here, this is the 1A, and this is a 1B complex, 1B, 1G, 1D, the 3 proteins which is given in the brackets here, that is a 3 subunit or complex, and that complex is actually corresponding to the, or it will be it will have the same function, or it will be a counterpart of eukaryotic initiation factor TS in prokaryotes. In prokaryotic elongation, we have 3 different proteins that is involved. The first factor is TU, elongation factor TU in prokaryotes. The second one TS in prokaryotes and EFG in prokaryotes. And each is having separate functions. For example, the EFTU in prokaryote is used for attaching to the or carrying this amino acid tRNA specifically into the site. The same role here is done by eukaryotic elongation factor 1A bound with GDP. In the prokaryotic system, instead of this one, this is a EFTU GTP complex. So this EF1A GTP complex is a counterpart of EFTU GTP complex in prokaryotes. This complex is the counterpart of a eukaryotic elongation factor TU in prokaryotes, because this complex, this TU equivalent complex or the counterpart, that is used for charging the elongation factor 1A with GTP. For example, once the GTP is hydrolyzed, then you will have eukaryotic elongation factor 1A GDP complex, which needs to be again converted into GTP bound complex by a conversion process. So that GDP-GTP conversion and again charging of this factor with the GTP is done by this complex. Similarly, in prokaryotic system, It is the role of the TS factor. Elongation factor TS is doing the same role of charging these GDP complex. Elongation factor GDP complex with another phosphate to form the GTP complex. So the same role is done by elongation factor TS in prokaryotic system. So the TS equivalent, which is converting the GDP complex into GTP complex, is this one, that is a elongation factor 1B, 1G and 1D complex. Now the third one is eukaryotic elongation factor 2, which will be equivalent to EFG in prokaryotes, and that is having a role in translocation. So during the elongation process, we have another stage in which we describe the translocation process, and in prokaryotes, EFG is having the role of involvement in the translocation, whereas the counterpart in prokaryotes, so in the counterpart in eukaryotes is a eukaryotic elongation factor 2 that is performing the translocation. So this is the different elongation factors that is in eukaryotic system, and at the end of the initiation step, the mRNA is positioned so that the next codon can be translated during the elongation stage of the protein synthesis. So after translocation, everything, the content of the A site will be moved to the P site, and the A site will be free for receiving another incoming tRNA. So this is another representation. The initiator tRNA occupies the P site initially. That is that occurs during the initiation process, and the A site is ready to receive the aminoacyl tRNA. So that is the starting point of elongation, where initiation is complete by occupying the initiator tRNA at the P site. The A site is free to receive the aminoacyl tRNA. So here you can see that this is the starting point where initiator tRNA will be there, and the A site, P site is bound. Then okay, there are some additional. This is the final stage where the entire peptide is created. So here we have the initiator tRNA initially occupied at the P site, then the A site will be free, that is the initiation point. Then during the chain elongation, each additional amino acid is added to the nascent peptide. So this is a cycle in which the new amino acid will be added to the nascent polypeptide by occupying the tRNA at the A site and transferring. The second stage is first stage is the introduction of the new or incoming amino acid to the A site. Then there is a peptide bond formation between these two, and then transfers that peptide bond into the A site. So that is the peptidyl transferase reaction. Once the peptide bond is transferred to the A site or the tRNA in the A site, then the translocation occurs, and as we mentioned, EF2, eukaryotic elongation factor 2 with GTP is helping or aiding in the translocation process. So with the help of elongation factor 2, the translocation occurs, and the entire assembly will be moved from A site to P site, and the contents of the P site will be moved to the exit site if possible, and this cycle continues. So the ribosome starts another cycle. So the A site is occupied by the new amino acid, peptide bond is formed, and peptidyl transferase reaction occurs, then translocation occurs, and this cycle continues till it reaches the end of the peptide chain, or wherever it encounters the termination codon. So here we have three micro step cycles, or three steps. Like the first step is the positioning of the correct aminoacyl tRNA in the A site, then formation of the peptide bond, then the third stage is the translocation of the mRNA. So this stage continues, or the cycle continues, by adding more and more amino acids to the glowing polypeptide chain. The codons are almost universal, you know that. So one of the features of the genetic code is the universality of the genetic code, but it is having some exception. it is universal except in some organelles of some eukaryotes. In some of the eukaryotic organelles, maybe there is a separate mRNA which is produced within, for example, mitochondria or some other organelles will be there where such a additional genetic material and transcription occurs. And in that case, the universality of the genetic code may not be applicable because there may be some specialized components that is incorporated. So the entire genetic code table will be different for such a eukaryotic organelles. And you may refer some of the internet resources for getting additional or special codon tables for such organelles. So universality is there for most of the genome, but there are some special cases in which special amino acids will be incorporated. Special amino acids other than these 20 will be incorporated in the proteins in such a organelles. Then during the elongation in bacteria, the deacetylated tRNA in the P site moves to the E site prior to leaving these ribosome. That's the usual occurrence in bacteria. So the contents of the P site will be moving to the E site before leaving the ribosome. That's the normal phenomenon in case of a bacterial system. But in contrast, eukaryotic system, it is not sure. Of course, we are marking in an E site or exit site there, and it is supposed the contents of the P site is supposed to move to the E site before exit, but it is not very clear. And sometimes the entire unit can leave from the P site itself. It may not be necessary for, or it is not compulsory to move to the E site before leaving in eukaryotic system. So it is not completely clear whether always it moves to the E site before leaving the ribosome. That's not entirely clear. And it states that some of the at least in some instances the utilized tRNA which is present at the P site can directly leave. For example, in this picture you can see that in the P site there is a tRNA. After peptide transferase reaction there is a tRNA, and during the translocation process, normally just like bacterial system, it is supposed to move to the E site, is utilized to tRNA, and then to the exterior, or then it will be expelled. But even before moving to the E site in eukaryotic system, that tRNA may be expelled directly from the P site. So the next stage is the termination stage, and the termination of the elongation depends on eukaryotic release factors. And in eukaryotes, these eukaryotic release factors used is eukaryotic release factor 1 or ERF1, which recognizes all the three termination codons UAA, UAG and UGA. And with the help of a protein, another protein, that is release factor 3, ERF3, that is the another protein that is helping or aiding in these ERF1. And these factors, or this complex of the two, ERF1 and 3, that terminates the translation by occupying the termination codons. Upon termination, the ribosome is disassembled or dismantled, and the complete polypeptide is released. Here you can see that there is a termination codon, either one of these, UAG, UAA or UGA, any of the termination codons, if it is there, the release factor, the ERF1 and ERF3 complex along with GTP will bind, and that triggers the release or termination and release of all the factors like, or all the components like mRNA, smaller and larger subunits, free RNAs and peptide, everything will be released after disassembling or dismantling these complex. So this is about eukaryotic translation, and this is the end of the discussion on the translation process or protein synthesis process in prokaryotic and eukaryotic systems. Thank you.